First, we'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands and waters on which I come from you today, the Ngunnawal people, and we pay our respects to their elders past and present. I'd also like to acknowledge the lands on which our fellows work, live, and apply science, technology, and engineering. We acknowledge traditional knowledge and the deep history of innovation it embodies.
We will be having a Q&A session at the end of our presentation today, but if during the presentation you have a question that comes up, please feel free to put it in the chat, and we will read it at the end of the session. So who are we? We are the Australian Academy of Technological Sciences and Engineering. We are a learned academy. We are independent, non-government organization, registered charity led by a diverse fellowship of over 900 future shapers who strive for a sustainable and prosperous Australia. We've existed since 1975, and we have grown from 65 fellows to over 900 who are responding to Australia's most urgent and complex challenges. We are an authoritative and independent voice to government, and our world-class STEM career programs demonstrate how to tackle our most urgent challenges here in Australia. I will now hand over to our membership manager, Elvira, and she'll run us through the ATSE suite of awards.
Thank you. The awards nominations and judging processes are a very detailed and robust process to elect new awardees each year. Each year, ATSE recognises outstanding senior and emerging innovators with national awards. The ATSE Awards are a flagship moment for ATSE and the Australian STEM community to celebrate our applied scientists, technologists, engineers, and entrepreneurs from diverse fields. Next slide, please. The ATSE Award categories that we have are Early Career Awards. So David and Valerie Solomon Award. This award recognises and celebrates public sector researchers who are engaged with industry and collaborating with industrial researchers to drive collaborative activities producing real-world impact. Our Ezio Rosado Polymer Scholarship acknowledges and celebrates the outstanding achievements and potential impact of a PhD candidate in the field of polymer science or engineering. And our ICM AgriFood Award acknowledges 2 early career innovators who have achieved substantial peer or industry recognition in the Australian food sector. Our mid and senior career awards include Clunies Ross Technology Innovation Award, which recognises contributions by dedicated individuals or teams who have shared their vision and knowledge with others to apply technology for the benefit of Australia and beyond. Our Batterham Medal for Engineering Excellence is an early career award for a graduate engineer who has achieved substantial peer or industry recognition for their work in the past 5 years. And our ATSE Traditional Knowledge Innovation Award celebrates STEM research and development by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples or communities, which is based on or significantly incorporates or builds on traditional knowledge. I would now like to introduce Dr. Sue Key as the Chair of the Clunies Ross Technology Innovation Awards Committee.
Thanks, Elvira. So, yeah, thanks. My name is Sue Kay. I became a fellow in 2021, and I guess in my first year as a fellow, I was invited to be a judge on the Clunies Ross Technology Innovation Awards. And then last year, I don't know whether promotion's the right word, but I was promoted to be the chair of the Clunies Ross Technology Innovation Awards. And it really is a very pleasurable process in as much as you to see in the really amazing work people are doing all different or a part of this session. Because you're considering judging, then I would encourage you to pursue that, because it So as Elvira mentioned, we're going to be discussing the two awards that cover mid and senior career people. The Clunies Ross Technology Innovation Award and the Batterham Medal for Engineering Excellence. If we could go to the next slide, please. And the Clunies Ross Awards were established in 1991 with the aim of being presented annually. They're named after Sir William Ian Clunies Ross. And they are teams of no more than 3 individuals who have shared their vision and knowledge with others to apply technology for the benefit of Australia and beyond. Nominees can range from entrepreneurs, researchers, or developers in a public-funded research organisation, a university, or a private company. The Batterham Medal for Engineering Excellence, I assume, is named after Robin Batterham, but please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're correct.
Good. And it is made to an early career graduate engineer who has achieved substantial peer and industry recognition for their work in the past 5 years. Engineers are eligible if they're in the private, public, or academic sectors, and it consists of the Batterham Medal, as well as a cash prize of $5,000. And this particular medal is sponsored by the Group of 8 Deans of Engineering and Associates. And we're very lucky today that we will be hearing from some of the winners of these awards, so that you can ask them questions around the application and the process and how they found, what they have learned through the whole process. So I think I hand back to you, Elvira, to take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. The nomination process. You will find the awards guidelines and nomination portal on our website, which is displayed on the screen. We recommend reading the guidelines before you commence gathering all the information for the nomination. The nomination process is very detailed and can take several hours to gather the required information and documents. No self-nominations are allowed for these awards. You will need to register a profile on the ATSE nominations website and then select which award the nomination is for. Each of the awards have different document requirements, and these are listed in the guidelines. Both of the awards require the proposer and nominee details and contact information, the nominee's current role, an executive overview with a maximum of 100 words, and a referee report. Some of the 2 awards might require a proposer overview, and another might require a seconder's details and letter, and some don't. The Batterham Medal selection process, the award committee members will individually examine, score, and comment on all the nominations received. Then the awards committee will meet by Zoom to discuss the nominees and decide on the winner. The Clunies Ross Technology Innovation Awards committee members will individually examine, score, and comment on all the nominations received. The committee will then meet by Zoom and discuss the nominees and decide on a short list for due diligence checks. All the award committee members will individually examine, score, and comment on the due diligence comments. Then the awards committee will meet by Zoom to discuss the final nominees and decide on the winner or winners. The names and citation of each of the awardees is provided to the board for approval. After the board approval, the Secretariat will contact the awardees and prepare for the ATSE Gala Awards dinner to be held in Melbourne on the 17th of October. On the screen, you will see the key dates for the awards. Nominations will close COB Wednesday, the 15th of May. Now I would like to introduce you all to our previous awardees. 2023 Clunies Ross Technology Innovation Awardee, Dr. James Tickner.
Thanks, Elvira. Sorry, did you want me to kick off, or are you going to introduce?
Yes, please. No, you can kick off now.
Excellent, thank you. And hello, good evening, everybody. Yeah, my name's James Tickner, and I was, yeah, as Elvira said, fortunate enough to receive the 2023 Clunies Ross Award. Inviting anybody to talk about their science and research is always dangerous because people will talk for hours, but I'll try and keep it pretty brief. I had been at CSIRO for about 20 years, working on a bunch of technologies, but one of those was something that became photon assay. This is an X-ray based method for analyzing gold in mining applications. And the reason I was nominated by my CEO for this award really was to reflect the fact that I'd kind of carried this work all the way through from the very early basic scientific research at CSIRO through to trying to launch and establish a new company to commercialize the technology, and then getting that technology all the way through to market. So growing the company, and we floated the company a couple of years ago. And it was just a fantastic journey to be on, from that kind of basic science all the way through to seeing people in the real world actually using what we've built. Look, as I mentioned, I was nominated by my CEO, who's clearly kind of a commercial guy. You know, he's running a corporation, but a key part of putting together a strong nomination was trying to get supporters from different parts of the journey. So Larry Marshall, who was the former CEO of CSIRO, was able to comment on the kind of the scientific development. And then we got one of our major customers, a guy called Stuart Thompson from MSA Labs, to talk about the actual real world practical impact and implementation of the technology. And for an award that kind of recognizes both the science and the commercialization, I think if you can get that support from both sides, I think it strengthens the application that you can put in. I mean, I think one of the questions that we were asked was why put in for this, well, any of the ATSE awards, but this one in particular. For me, it really recognized, it's sort of a unique award in the science sphere of recognizing both basic research and commercialization. I think there's not many awards that kind of talk to both sides, and recognizing that it is a long journey from an initial idea through to creating a company, through to achieving commercial success. And that's what really appealed when sort of I learned about the Clunies Ross Award. Oh, look, and there's some other great perks that come along with it if you're successful. Fabulous gala dinner. We were lucky enough to be seated with on our table with the Governor General, David Hurley, and his wife. It's a pretty unique opportunity to be able to meet and chat with somebody like that. And yeah, look, that was a real that evening was a real highlight. Look, we found the nomination process reasonably straightforward. I mean, Elvira sort of walked through it. As a person on the other side of the process, it wasn't terribly complicated. There's a fair bit of information you've got to get together, of course, and depending on who nominates you, you may need to help them gather some of that information and just help them put together a convincing case. But we didn't find the process terribly complicated. Look, I mean, what does sort of winning the award mean? I mean, for me personally, it was sort of an honor to be recognized by ATSE for what has been for us a 20-year journey. ATSE, I feel, is an organization that recognizes you don't just do science for its own sake. You do it because it makes the world a better place. It makes people's lives better. It finds real world application. It's pretty easy in your day-to-day job to get sort of lost in the weeds of the problems that you're trying to solve each day, and taking that step back and sort of reflecting, on what's been achieved over a long run, I think is really valuable. And look, the sort of last question we're asked was sort of impact on career. I mean, I have to say, stepping outside of kind of academia and becoming an industrial scientist, probably awards and prizes and nominations, things like that, carry a little bit less weight than they do in academia. But for us, it really provides credibility. We're in the market with a pretty advanced technology, trying to prove to people that it works, and recognition from kind of really respected organizations like ATSE carries a lot of weight. It shows that you're doing something for real. So look, overall, if you're contemplating an entry, if you're contemplating nominating somebody, I'd strongly advise give it a go. It's a really rewarding pathway to go down. Thanks,
Thank you, James. I'd like to introduce you now the 2023 Batterham Medal awardee, Conrad Wasco.
Well, thank you for that introduction. I think I'll share a lot of sentiments that James just expressed. So I did win the Batterham Medal last year, and my background is in consulting and research. I worked in consulting for a few years before going to university and staying in the academic sector now for the last 10 years. And my research really looks at how climate change is impacting extreme rainfalls and flooding, particularly for engineering design. So this research culminated recently in myself with a few others leading an update to the climate change guidance around how we actually estimate flooding for climate change. So this is an official document that engineers would use in their practice. So I got two people to nominate me, and one was my immediate, I guess, supervisor or mentor at the University of Melbourne, and that's Rory Nathan. And one of the reasons was that he was awarded, I've got it written down here, in 2000 he was awarded the Civil Engineer of the Year by Engineers Australia, and in 2009 he was awarded one of Australia's most influential engineers. So I felt he could really attest and speak, because of his track record, really speak to my industry impact of the research. And then the other person was Ramon de la Posa. And at the time, she was the Assistant Director of the Department of Climate Change, Energy, Environment and Water. And so I felt that she could really speak to the impact that the research that I was doing had in the policy sphere. So I always find the question of why should you apply for these awards interesting, because it's more why shouldn't you apply? I think a few things, and James sort of touched on this. One thing that's really nice is that it's engineering wide. A lot of the awards in academia are very specific to your discipline. But the other thing is that it recognises industry impact, and that's really that's really quite rare. So speaking quite bluntly, often awards in academia can be based around sort of who has the longest publication record, but it really isn't about that. It's actually about generating change in industry, and I think that's really lovely to celebrate that, and particularly being nominated by your peers and being celebrated by your peers is really quite special. But the nomination process, I probably found the hardest thing. We had to have a statutory or witness for my degree, and I think my passport maybe as well. So that was actually quite hard digging up my degree, because it was buried underneath my bed. But other than that, the nominators actually have, I think, 2 free-form boxes to write out about your impact and your experience. And so I think for them, although obviously that might take a little bit of time to write, because of the free-form sort of nature of that, and it's actually they're not too long. I think the application process is not too tedious. So it meant a lot to win the award, and I think this really comes from the fact that in engineering in particular, we're taught that we're only as good as our last job. So it's very rare for us to really, I think, as a discipline, to sit back and reflect on what we've achieved. And the reality is, to what James said, usually the work takes quite a long time to get to the culmination. So sort of these guidelines, I've been working on towards this, probably the research for the last 5 to 10 years. So it's quite a long haul. So it's really nice to, really be recognised by your peers, in particular because, I guess, doing something new is really hard, and convincing people that something new is useful or important. These things are quite difficult. So having awards that recognise that is really nice. So finally, what has this done for my career? I think one story that I wanted to share, because I think it was quite cute. I went with my partner, and she saw someone that she used to row with and thought that she would introduce me to this person. And it turns out it was the CEO of Engineers Australia, who I probably should have known beforehand. And so I think that was really nice. I met quite a lot of people, including the president of Engineers Australia as well. But this was at the gala dinner, and it's a great opportunity to network and to meet people. And indeed, my new employer, I'm between jobs, is also a fellow of ATSE. So the point is that it actually, and so they recognised this award and recognised me. So it actually does carry a lot of weight, I think, and people notice, and it's because you're getting respect from your peers with this award. I think it really does, help in terms of networking, but also gaining respect, I guess, in your profession. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Conrad. Now I'd like to introduce our 2015 Batterham Medal awardee, Dr. Lachlan Blackhall. You're just on mute, sorry, Lachlan.
Sorry, is that better now?
Yes, thank you.
Brilliant. Oh, good evening all. Look, a real pleasure to be here. And I feel a bit vintage in the context of winning the award back in 2015. Look, I share many sentiments with James and with Conrad, and I might take the opportunity, given that I now sit on the Batterham Award Committee, to maybe also make some comments on that as I sort of go through, my perspectives on the award. So, I won the award back in 2015. The work that was really, awarded, what the medal was awarded for, was some work I was doing around developing virtual power plant capabilities. So basically, I co-founded a company and we were working to understand how you optimize residential battery storage and solar so that it could participate in the energy system and provide services to networks and to the market. And back in 2015, that was pretty new. So I was using some work that I'd completed in my PhD, which I'd finished a few years earlier, but I had left the university and was out actually working in working in industry, effectively commercializing sort of research ideas. So I was nominated by the dean of my alma mater, so Eleanor Huntington. She was dean of engineering at ANU, and that's where I had done my PhD, and I'd stayed in touch with the university. So while I wasn't, working there, I'd actually stayed in touch and was still, teaching a course a year and, trying to remain integrated in the research community, because I felt it was really, really important to, be integrated into that world at the same time as trying to commercialize the work that we were working on. And so, the nomination process itself was actually relatively straightforward, in the sense that Eleanor really carried the burden of most of the nomination. And I think that that's probably something, just, I might make a comment as someone who now sits on the judging panel. It's really obvious when the nominator knows the applicant really, really well, and that really does come through. And so, I think Eleanor took a lot of time to get across the work I was doing and to put forward a good case. So the nomination process was relatively straightforward from my perspective, but I knew that she put in, quite a bit of work. I'd really echo the sentiments from the others. Ultimately applying for the award, or, supporting the person who is nominating you, it's really important just to be seen. And these kind of awards are they're really important in celebrating things that often don't have a home otherwise, that, particularly around doing work in universities, doing research work that then is translated out into the real world. I think ATSE has, a really strong focus on that, and it's really, really important, because as Conrad said, otherwise you tend to find quite narrow awards in your field, and this collection of awards is actually quite unique in actually celebrating that translation between, fundamental research and then its application and use and impact broadly. So for me, personally, it was a great honour, obviously, to receive the award. It is always lovely to be recognised. I think, for many scientists and engineers, we do the work for personal fulfilment, and there's great satisfaction in finding out things, new pieces of knowledge. It's exciting to see work, result in companies and products and services where that knowledge is being applied. But it is really nice to be recognised. And, to Conrad's point, it does have cachet. ATSE's, an incredible organisation in terms of what it stands for. and people do understand the ATSE brand, as it were. And so, you know, it has been incredibly useful in terms of conveying to employers and, you know, to other organizations that to give them an understanding of, you know, of the work that you've done and the impact that you've had. So look, I've had an incredibly privileged career to date, and you know, I do think in part the Batterham Medal has played a really important role in that, and it really does go to a couple of things. One, it allows you to rub shoulders with people who are doing really interesting things, and that exposes you to really interesting opportunities. And certainly, I've been really lucky. Obviously, I came into the ATSE orbit through the Batterham Medal. I'm also fortunate to be elected as a fellow a few years later, and so being around the fellows of ATSE and being exposed to those opportunities has been wonderful and given me a chance to get involved in lots of interesting things. And then again, that just the recognition that comes from, you know, the ATSE brand through these awards is, again, you know, has been really, really important. And so, you know, when I actually applied to be on the board of Engineers Australia a couple of years ago, and, you know, when I was elected, one of the things that was cited was, you know, having the Batterham Medal on my resume actually, you know, did stand out and did suggest to people that I, you know, it was one of the things that contributed to them feeling that I was suitable for that role. So, yeah, you know, I don't want to overstate this, but it really has been a life-changing thing from my perspective to be given these awards and to get the opportunities that flow from it. So, yeah, I might stop there.
Thank you, Lachlan. Thank you all for your attention. We will now open up the Q&A session, and the previous awardees are happy to answer any questions. Please use the electronic raised hand button on the bottom of your screen in the Reactions tab, or enter your question in the chat function.
Everyone's shy on Monday evening.
One question's popped up, I see. What's the definition of an early career researcher?
Go. Elvira, do you have that?
Or any awardees happy to answer, or I can answer.
I suspect that actually has an official definition, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Lachlan? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, go.
I was going to say I'm happy to jump in.
Yeah,
Mine
go
is
for it.
for the Batterham. My understanding is it's up to the age of 40
Correct.
in the year of award. So it's not yeah, it's purely an age restriction.
And also, if I can add, if you've had a career break due to family or carer responsibilities, then you can apply also. No, you don't need to be a fellow to apply.
I think it tends to go the other way, though.
Yes, it does.
So, and I know that within ATSE, while there's no guarantees of going from an award to fellowship, it certainly, you know, it certainly puts people on the radar for, when it comes to the fellowship nomination processes.
It's probably worth noting, I think I'm correct, Elvira, in saying that also for the awards, at least nominators also don't need to be a fellow. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a very competitive award process for all of our awards. So Batterham, there is only one winner for the Batterham Medal. Clunies Ross is up to 3 winners or groups per year.
I mean, I think maybe just as I said, as now that I sit on the panel for Batterham, it's probably worth just talking about what a good application looks like. I think the thing that singularly stands out in an excellent application is where the nominators do not simply reiterate what's on the resume of the applicant. I mean, I think that's broadly good advice for all awards. The CV gives a good sense. You know, as a judge, the CV gives you a good sense of someone's professional achievement, but the nominator statements are really good at filling in the colours around that. You know, what else have they done? How are they a good citizen? How do they contribute to the broader culture of the of the field or discipline that they work in, and that really sort of elevates it above sort of a professional excellence to being a well-rounded, to well-rounded excellence. And particularly in the Batterham context, that is one of the, that is part of the criteria for for application. So, I think we often see is we get the resume, and then the nominator statements are essentially, a précis of the resume. And I think that to the extent that nominators can give us greater depth and breadth of understanding of the individual or individuals involved, it's incredibly helpful in actually in understanding, the impact that they've had.
Yeah, certainly. I remember, when my sort of nominator was, discussing trying to frame the application, the questions that he came with were quite specific, and looking at how you can take a candidate's experience and lining up against those questions seemed to be important, which I guess echoes what you're saying, Lachlan.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, I think too, there's also a reading between the lines element of it. We ask these prompting questions, and there are specific criteria, but it's also interesting to, I think nominators can take some latitude with how they frame excellence of the candidate, and I think we would, ultimately these awards broadly are about how people have had impact. And so, to the extent that, people can take a broad view on describing the impact of someone they're nominating, it is really helpful for the judging committee, for the awarding committee.
I can probably just add something on the Clunies Ross nominations. And that is that each of the sections is scored at the same level. So, you don't make an assumption that the first questions are the ones that are most important. And so, not only is it important to consider, is this really, unique innovation, and is the science quite unique? Has it had measurable impact? But also then what has been the influence on the next generation of technologists coming through is an important component. So I think it's important, if you're putting a Clunies Ross nomination in, to make sure that you give equal weight to each of the sections, because that is how they will be judged.
Thank you, Sue. Doesn't seem to be any more questions. Okay, thank you again for joining us this evening. If you have any further questions during the nomination process, please send us an email at membership@atse.org.au. Also, as a reminder, the guidelines are on our website and nominations portal. I just see there's just thank yous. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and good night.